We are live. Fantasy is life. You know it's a vibe. We're a minute early, 30 seconds early. That's all right because you got to hit that waiver wire as soon as possible because playoffs are upon us. And if you have the likes of certain players, they may be injured, but who knows?
Yeah, let's go, ladies and gentlemen. It's do or die, right? It is the last week of the regular season, and in some cases we're kind of happy we get an extra week, right? I know, like in our friends league, Benny, we actually have a
Mhm.
slight chance of making the playoffs. At what are we, like 6-8? I think we're
Yeah,
both
something
six and
like
eight,
that.
and we might be able to make the playoffs. So we might just sneak on in there. So a lot of teams might be fortunate. So, that's why you want to be listening this week. You got to find out how to stack those studs, who you should be sitting, who you should be starting, maybe who you should be picking up off the waiver wire. We'll get up to that in a
Got a
little
point.
bit. But I think the most important position got to be QB, right?
Gotta be QB. Gotta hit that QB stack real quick. Lead it off there, Bernie.
Number one, it's got to be now. This guy, he did not perform that well last night. I mean, it was bad weather conditions, so we'll see. This coming week, it's going to be Josh Allen, though. We're thinking against
Yep.
that Bucs secondary that's pretty weak. They've kind of run into some issues, especially some injury issues. He's going to be able to capitalize. Hit Dawson Knox maybe a couple times in the end zone. That'd be sweet. After that, we're looking at Patrick Mahomes against the Raiders. He's another guy, he's been kind of hit or miss these past like 4 or 5 weeks, I'd say, right? And this past week, he didn't even get 15 points. I was, personally banking on a solid 20 to 25 point game. Didn't happen. But against the Raiders secondary, they've been yielding, typically around 18 to 25 points to opposing quarterbacks. So I do think, and we think he's going to be getting back into that range. Who we got after that, Benny?
Next is the Herbie himself, taking that
Herbie.
choo-choo train all the way through the tunnels of the Lincoln variety and taking down the New York Giants, and that's Justin Herbert. Uh, Bernie's optimistic about Keenan Allen being back on
Very
Sunday,
optimistic.
so that bodes huge for waiver wire purposes as well because we saw that Jalen Guyton had a great game last week. It's probably one and done. But if for some reason Keenan Allen is out, Mike Williams, huge bump. And I mean, huge bump, anyways, to be honest. And then as well as a couple others. But yeah, Justin Herbert is going to be hurling that pigskin across the field. And then next is someone that needs to hurl it a little more and, get a touchdown or two. And that's
He
Lamar Jackson.
he needs to be more accurate with it. That's
Yeah.
has been his issue the past couple of games. That's why he's been dropping down in these rankings, and the matchup's kind of favorable too. So he always has that rushing upside. So that's why he's going to be a top 5 option. From there, though, we got a guy he's been on bye this past week. Maybe healing up that toe a little bit, shooting a commercial or two. Yeah, Benny's trying to impersonate him, and
I'm the AA Ron Rodgers
hey, hey,
lookalike.
hey, let me get you a sweet deal, Aaron. And he's playing the Bears, so I think that is a pretty sweet deal, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, against that secondary, they've just another team that, especially with that offense for the Bears, they're not going to be able to really maintain the ball at all against the pack. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be in a position to cook. So I think his upside is he could have a 30 burger easily. And same thing with this next guy who cooked last week, 4 total touchdowns. He's playing the Rams though, so I think that's why we dropped him a little bit. A defense, even though they haven't been looking that necessarily great. And yes, last week they did, but before then they didn't. So we'll see what happens there. Who we got after that? I mean, Dak. Do you think
Yeah.
he's back?
I don't
Is
know,
Dak back?
man.
Zach
He
attack,
was at the
Zach
beginning
attack
of the
doesn't
year.
agree.
Dak
uh,
is back. Zach attack. Dak is back. Zach attack. Dak is back. Zach attack.
that would be
Dak
cool because I
is
have him
back.
in the league.
Zach attack.
This would be the game.
So it would be against the Washington football team. I was talking about it earlier on the live that myself and Tony Tucker do on the Warzone Sports Network. We were talking about how this is a pivotal matchup for the NFC East. And so if the Washington football team can string together this win, it's going to kind of shake things up. It's going to get a little tricky. And this year has been nothing but tricky and sloppy. Sloppy Sundays, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tune in, full recap. You know what it is. So this would really shake things up. So look for Dak to really put it all out on the field. Same with Taylor Heineke, but he is down in our rankings a bit more just because, Dak is way better. And then next is, wait for it, the GOAT, Tom Brady of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, playing the Bills. But remember, Tre'Davious White is out. And so, we already saw what the run game could do in the snowy weather against the
Exactly.
Bills. And it really looks like Tre'Davious White was not only in coverage, but in the running game, run defense too. He was, a key piece.
In the end, the Bills didn't do that poorly. In the end, they gave up 14 points, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
really not terrible defense. Their offense needs to be able to do more in that case. But to get back on topic, though, Tom Brady, we could be even a little too low on him in this case.
Yes,
Just because
I agree.
he is the MVP favorite currently. I think the way the amount of throws that they do on a week to week basis. They throw the ball the most in the NFL. So that
Mhm.
just obviously gives him the most opportunities. So fantasy
Yeah.
wise, that's why he's been a superstar again. So
We
yeah, Tom
got
Brady.
Money Monish in the chat. What's good, man? How
What
we
up?
doing?
What
How we
up?
feeling? How we living? Throw those ranking questions in. We
Yeah.
stacking them studs. Throw those waiver wire questions in. We're just trying to propel you to win that ship, win that fantasy championship. And if it's a little cashola to go with it, forget about it. And then this next guy, a little underwhelming. He hasn't been cooking as much as he
No.
should have been, and that's Russell Wilson. He's playing the Texans, and that's why he's even in the top 10 this week because of the matchup. And so, with that, we should see some wide receivers eating. Texans are arguably the worst team in the league. Tyrod, I think he's down again, right? Or did he just get benched?
I I'm not sure what's going on there. I do think he is going to be playing this week. I think they just sat him because he was just playing so ineffectively. But I'm moving to another guy who was pretty ineffective last week. Taysom Hill is going to be our number 10 quarterback because even though he threw four picks, he still gave you some decent
Yeah.
fantasy points, right? So I think that was like the worst possible outcome.
Hmm.
So that rushing upside was pretty evident. Especially with what we saw with Alvin Kamara. If
Yeah.
Kamara's out, Taysom Hill definitely has top 8 upside.
And Jan, welcome back, my
Yeah.
man. Y'all do Dynasty? Of course we do. Throw those
Yes.
questions in the chat. You know, it's Dynasty Keeper, all that jazz. Half PPR, full PPR, even standard for you people that still do that analog
No, standard
telephone.
standard's legit. We can't hate on standard.
And then Money Monish, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'll let Zach Attack answer this one.
Oh yeah. I think Keenan Allen's going to play. All basically they caught it early enough, in my opinion, right? So he tested positive yesterday on Monday, so he has to have 2 straight negative tests as long as he's vaccinated. So I guess that's the big caveat. I don't think we're exactly aware of that status yet. I have been, monitoring everything, but because I haven't seen a report yet, I'm assuming he is vaccinated. Um, and then hopefully we just get a couple negative tests in a row. I don't think we're going to get any sort of update until probably Friday or Saturday. So you are going to have to bank on that and potentially have a backup plan in place. But I do think he's going to play.
And I don't 100% agree, but Zach Attack has been right on. He's hit a lot of these COVIDs. Starts and
Yeah.
sits. So
Keenan
you got
Allen's
to
my
trust
man too.
Zach
So
Attack.
dude better
Yeah.
play.
Next is going to be Joey B of the Cincinnati Bengals playing the 49ers. He had a better day than Patrick Mahomes last week, and I should have started him, and I would have won my matchup, even though he had negative points in the first quarter. So, yeah, against the 49ers, both of them coming off the loss, it's going to be a tough matchup between two offenses that are completely different and defenses that are, struggling a little here and there. The next one, playing against the Cardinals, is Matthew Stafford. He had a good week last week, a couple weeks before that. He had some lackluster weeks, but coming off bye, he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean I think we might be and yes, Cardinals defense is good, but the past 2 weeks he's had over 20 points in each of the games. He's had 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. This is all with OBJ, right? Like maybe, and OBJ has gotten 2 straight touchdowns as well,
Yeah.
so he's definitely fantasy relevant. We'll be bringing him up here in a little bit.
And then next on our list is Kirk Cousins. Whoever thought we would say that Kirk Cousins was consistent and not an interception-prone quarterback? Not I. I did not think that. But he is number 13 playing the Steelers. The Steelers are just, they pulled out a win just because the Ravens thought they could do something, even though Lamar should have ran the ball instead of trying to pass it to their fullback. Anyways, going forward.
And just a quick note though, Kirk Cousins, 5 straight games with 2+ touchdowns. So I mean, I think he's definitely back tier QB1 and high end QB2. So if he's for whatever reason available, if you can snag him, still go do it. I think he's still like 85% owned though, so it'll probably be tough.
Next is a man playing the Chiefs, got spanked by the Chiefs last time, and that's Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders. He should, I'd say, temper your expectations. He'll probably have between 15 and 20 points. He could be a waiver wire pickup in like 10-team leagues. He should be rostered in most leagues, though. And then next guy, though, I think I'll let Bernie highlight this one. It's kind of a tricky situation here.
I know, right? Because Cam Newton, he has had a really good hit week and then a big miss week, and now he has an optimal matchup coming up against the Falcons. So, is it an exploitable matchup? 100%. Yes. You have to ask yourself, which Cam Newton are we going to get? I like him coming out of the bye, though. I do think they're going to be in a good position. That they're going to have a new offensive coordinator. They did part ways with Joe Brady, so I think it's going to favor them because it's going to be hard for the Falcons to prepare for Cam Newton.
Yeah.
So with that, I like his floor as well, just the rushing floor. You're gonna kind of bank that he's gonna, especially with McCaffrey not going to be playing, he's going to be the guy around the goal line just going for the QB run. So
Very
he
true.
has a floor of I would say like 15 points. It's just like that ceiling, you're probably looking at like what 24, 25 points.
Yeah. And then going forward, except for Ryan Tannehill, because he should be owned in most leagues, we got Taylor Heineke, Ben Roethlisberger, Teddy Bridgewater, Jimmy G. All those guys could be streamers for this week. It's all depending on matchups.
I hope you're not streaming them though.
Yeah, right. Exactly. The one out of all of them that I would stream, if any, is Heineke.
Yeah.
He has not necessarily the best weapons, but I think he has probably, the best coaching staff for quarterback play, best play calling for quarterback play.
Yeah.
Because
he's kind of suave back there too. He has very good pocket presence. Like not even necessarily for fantasy. Like he's not a bad quarterback though. He can he's gonna last in the league for a couple more years.
And we got a bold prediction from Money Monish. I would start Heineke over Carr, to be honest. I like that take.
I like that take as well because that Chiefs defense has been solid. That's we don't really talk necessarily about defenses too much, but we did, I think, on our podcast a week before talk about the Chiefs defense and how you should be picking them up because they are a defense that's hard to play against. So yeah, I would take Heineke over Carr as well. I mean, I think I guess it matters as well as like your weekly matchup, right? Because Heineke is more risky, in my opinion, than Carr, and that's why we have that kind of reflected here.
Exactly. Moving into running backs. Known running back, and remember, Jonathan Taylor's on bye this week, so you gotta figure that out. You should have people stashed if you've been listening to Stacking the Studs and watching it. But first is Bernie's man, Austin Eckler, playing his men, the G-men, the Giants. And, everyone got super scared last week towards the end. I think Austin Eckler should be all right.
Yeah, pick up Justin Jackson just in case, though. I mean, if you're an Eckler owner.
And then next, speaking of injuries, Alvin Kamara playing the Jets.
Come back, bro.
Yeah,
Come
please come back.
back.
Please. And they're playing the Jets, so like if he starts, he could have 80 points. So Joe Mixon is number 3. He is a touchdown machine. In every game that he's played since week 4, he scored a touchdown to really be putting it on everything.
Yeah.
Against the 49ers, who, their run defense has been hit and miss. So I mean, it could be a great day or it could be a day like last week, but he still got you a touchdown, so that that's good value right there. Let's see who we got next there, Bernie.
After that, we have a man who was not cooking the first 8 weeks of the season, and then slowly but surely it was getting better and better. And then last week, he finally exploded. Finally, this is like what you've been waiting for, people. It's Javonte Williams, and this week he is an even better matchup coming against the Lions. So as long as Melvin Gordon's out, you fire up Javonte Williams as a top 5, top 6 back.
Yeah. And then next, a guy, Naji Harris, playing the Vikings. The Vikings defense has kind of been topsy-turvy and has kind of been on a downward spiral. They did lose to the Lions, so you got to start everyone against the Vikings pretty much.
Apparently.
That's why Ben Roethlisberger is in our rankings. Usually he's not, and it's his last year, so give him a couple little
farewell tour.
Yeah. And then next is a guy that Bernie's really high on, so I'll let him talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Chubb against the Ravens, and the Ravens defense has shown the past couple of weeks that they're exploitable. I think Nick Chubb and this Browns offense understands that they just need to run the ball. They need to be running the ball. Probably they need to get Nick Chubb the ball 20 times a game. They need to get Kareem Hunt 10 to 15 times a game, and then let Baker throw it to Jarvis Landry maybe 5 times a game, and that's it. So
and I think this helps. Sorry to cut you off, but I think this helps segues into fantasy playoffs, right? You want to have the players on the teams that are fighting to get into the playoffs in real life, because if they have no bank in the game, if they're like really reeling and they're like older players especially, they're not going to play them as much. They're not really going to. I mean, they're going to go out there and give their best effort, but at the same time, you want playoff hungry teams to have players in your playoffs for fantasy, because if not, then they could get sat at some point, if whether they're getting blown out or not. So just look for that, especially going forward to next year.
Yep.
And then speaking of going forward, Dalvin Cook is not going forward, and Alexander Mattison is probably going to be starting again. We have him at number 7, and so they're playing the Steelers. Everyone's been running great against the Steelers. And then another guy who has been the biggest surprise, aside from Jonathan Taylor this year, give it to me, Vern.
It's playoff Lenny, and he's playing the Bills defense, who the Patriots threw the ball 3 times against, right? I think a whopping 3 times. They played smash mouth football, and I loved it. It was like the Packers back in like the 60s and 70s. It was just like, it was crazy. So, I could see. I don't think the Bucks will employ the same kind of offense that the Patriots did in this case, but at the same time, I think they're going to be involving Leonard Fournette a good amount.
100%. And then next is a guy that I've been super high on since I think about like week 10, definitely after their bye, and that's Antonio Gibson. With J.D. McKissick probably still being out this week, he will be that workhorse back. His shin splints don't really seem to be bothering him, and they're playing the Cowboys. Him having a great receiving day over anything. And it's just, he's so powerful. He's such a powerful running back. And it's crazy to think that he was ever a wide receiver, because I could just only imagine how he would just bulldoze those other guys. And then next is a guy, speaking of running back and wide receiver, Cordell Patterson, playing the Panthers. Number 10, he may be a little high because the Panthers' run defense is pretty good, and Cordell has been definitely running the ball a little more. He didn't get a touchdown last week. Mike Davis did, but don't let that sway your opinion about the backfield, because Cordell Patterson locked in, baby. And he probably wants to play safety too.
He is. And then this next guy, he's coming off bye. So coming off, he was injured before, so he should be good to go now. But I think he's going to be in a little bit of a split, or more of a split than we
Mhm.
saw before with AJ Dillon, right? And so we're talking about Aaron Jones here. He's playing the Bears though, so that's a favorable matchup all around for pretty much everybody in fantasy. And then after that, we have a guy who I think he's like the pickup of the year in waiver wire, right? And it was
Yeah.
kind of same situation with James Robinson, right? Last year, and
Yeah,
that's
and I'm
Eli
gonna put
Mitchell.
I'm gonna put this up here. Jan, any strategies you can teach me about dynasty or players you really like? Who should I draft? So this is a perfect segue because Elijah Mitchell, he will be that running back in San Francisco for the foreseeable future. And in dynasty, it all depends on how many years you one paid up, two, like how many years it's planned for so far, and you want to draft young and plan for the future. And so some of these draft picks you'll get lucky with, right? Elijah Mitchell was taken, I think, in the third round of my fantasy drafts for what's it called, for rookies. And so with that going forward, you want to hit younger guys. That's why like Justin Jefferson will go in the first round if you're drafting a new dynasty. Um,
Right. I mean, it's really about evaluating, how your team is going to do that upcoming season, and just trying to fill whatever hole you might have, and also just go for the best available player in the end. I mean,
yeah.
you're going to be valuing just best available player over, the typical kind of way the draft falls. The NFL draft is going to be favoring quarterbacks, of course, but
Mhm.
with these sort of drafts, you're going to be going for more position players. So with that being said, I would personally say, try to do a couple mock drafts, because it is hard to necessarily predict how those drafts are going to go. You just know it's going to be those top positional players from the previous
Mhm.
season that were just drafted. That's of course going to be your focus, and then you just got to kind of go for really those depth positions. In like, I'm in a couple dynasty leagues, and in this one dynasty league I'm in specifically, and it's like you basically have to look for the third and fourth string like running backs, and wide receiver for wide
Yeah.
receivers like fifth or sixth string. So you have to like look at practice squad players, things of that nature. So it's a lot more investigative work, like researching work, but you know,
And sometimes you want to waste a sixth or seventh round pick on someone that's out for the year, like Cam Akers. And like because they're going to be back next year. Like certain players that aren't so injury prone that will be back will be better for you going forward. So hit us up in the DMs. I'll take you through all that. We'll get back to a little running back stack, and next is going to be a guy who's also pretty should be good as long as they can get Urban Meyer out of there for your
oh yes,
dynasty league.
speak of the devil.
Yeah, James Robinson. Playing the Titans, very favorable matchup. He should eat. We said that last week too, and he got 2 points. Next, though, is whoever plays. Whoever plays will be at 14. If it's Daryl Henderson or Sony Michelle. Sony Michelle had 21 points last week, really showed out. So if that can happen, 14, either one, playing the Cardinals. And speaking of, the opposite backfield, and he could be a little higher because the Rams, for whatever ungodly reason, have been really bad against the run since getting Von Miller. Is James Conner? It's crazy.
It is crazy. I noticed that as well. I did see a stat that correlated the two, which is weird. Um, I think in the end though, I think a lot of it has to do with, they are addressing Aaron Donald better at the line of scrimmage. I think that does have a lot to do with it, but I think they are going to turn it around. James Conner, he has been very consistent pretty recently. I mean, he's had double
Yeah.
digits for last 4 games. I mean, especially I think he had a 40 burger a few games back as well. So, I mean, in the end, James Conner, I really like his floor. I think you can start him as an RB2 with confidence.
And Saquon is next
Yeah, like these
because
next two guys,
yeah,
I would start James Conner over Saquon and Zeke. and that's why we have him ranked accordingly. So because I mean Saquon, do you really want to have anything to do with this Giants offense that's going to have Jake from State Farm potentially as the quarterback? No. No, you do not. So you're gonna avoid that. And then Zeke just looks banged up. He's been banged up since he like rolled his ankle like 3 weeks ago. So I'd really prefer Tony Pollard in this
Yeah,
case in that backfield. So, just because it is Zeke, though, it is Washington football team, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But, I think they personally need to like sit Zeke for like a week or two for the playoffs
mhm,
because the way they're looking, I don't think Zeke's going to be able to make it through the season.
I agree. And then next is CEH playing the Raiders. He could be higher, he could be lower. It's
Mm.
all inconsistency. Everything about the Kansas City Chiefs offense, I will never draft another player from the Chiefs because they are way too inconsistent for fantasy football purposes. I don't care. I don't care. Patrick Mahomes, dead to me. Tyreek
Wow.
Hill, dead to me. Travis
Wow.
Kelsey, dead to me. All of them, dead to me.
Wow.
Yep. And you can't say nothing to change my nothing mind. And next is a guy, actually. Wow, these segues are perfect. Is a guy that was on the Chiefs, and I trust him more than any of the Chiefs. And that's Kareem Hunt, and they're playing the Ravens. He could be higher, but he has to deal with Nick Chubb, so it's all about that PPR value.
After that, we got Josh Jacobs against the Chiefs, who has been with no
Last
Kenny
big
and
game,
Drake now.
yeah,
Yeah, no Kenny and Drake now. I think that really even opens up more opportunities for him. I would say Peyton Barber is definitely somebody. If you have
yeah.
Josh Jacobs, you should probably pick up Peyton Barber just to be on the safe side if you're relying on that running back spot. But against the Chiefs defense has looked good, but I think he should be involved in the passing game enough to give you a decent floor. Next guy, I think, is another person who will have a decent floor as well, and that's Chuba Hubbard, and he's playing the Falcons. So he's going to be replacing CMC, who's done for the season. So we're going to be, seeing probably 15, 20 touches at least for him, I would say. So you can at least bank probably 10 points is probably his floor right around there, but he's not going to give you more than 20, unfortunately. That's the only problem with Chuba. After that, another guy who's been super consistent. I can't believe I'm saying that the word's
Yeah, me neither.
consistent and this man right now, but he has been. He's been scoring touchdowns. It's
Really
Devonta
has.
Freeman.
Yeah.
And he's playing the Browns. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, Devonta Freeman is a top 25 back. It's 2021, about to be 2022. What's going on here? Ugh.
Oh man.
So yeah, that's happening.
And then next we've got the artist formerly known as AJ Dillon's handcuff, and that's Jamal Williams. He should be playing in that RB1 slot if DeAndre Swift is still down, and he probably will be.
Come on, DeAndre
Sorry,
Swift.
Vern.
Want to get
Sorry,
want to get
Vern.
Swifty.
They're playing the Broncos, so temper your expectations for that. And then the next guy, you could pretty much swap him. Maybe Tony Pollard for Zeke. Tony Pollard's playing the Washington football team. He could have another big game and another huge touchdown run. And then we've got Old Faithful back at the number one spot for the wide receivers. And who's that, Bernie?
Old Faithful has got to be Devontae Adams. He's playing the Bears, as we've been hyping up. This is a prime matchup for Aaron Rodgers and this entire offense. So, I think they're definitely going to be able to cook, just like our next guy is Cooper Cup, Cooper Cup of
Cooper Kupp.
coffee. And he's playing the Cardinals. He had another solid game, over 20 points last week. So look for him to cook. But another guy who has been the epitome of cooking these past 3 weeks, Justin Jefferson. He is our number 3 wide receiver now. He's playing the Steelers, a very exploitable defense. Adam Thielen might not be playing. So, yeah,
Might
Justin
not. He's
Jefferson.
out. Adam
He is
Thielen's
out.
out.
He's been
Yeah,
ruled out. Awesome.
yeah.
Hey,
It's just it's all about how severe the high ankle sprain is because he could be
right.
out for the season.
Wow. Dang. So
So
Justin
waiver
Jefferson,
wires, yeah, waiver wires though.
Osborne.
Yes.
Osborne's a big guy. And Conklin too.
Yep. Yeah,
So
we'll get to that.
we'll be getting to them. Oh yeah, sorry, giving you a little sneak peek, people.
Sneak peek, people.
And then next guy is the guy right behind my shoulder there, or that shoulder. Boom, boom. The cheetah, Tyreek. He's playing the Raiders, so that's definitely another exploitable matchup. The Raiders' offense has just been pretty terrible recently, so
Yeah.
I think it could be a nice spot for them.
And
Who
then
we got
next we've got CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb will go on a lamb and get you a lot of points against the Washington football team. Remember, just because Ron Rivera can call the game correctly doesn't mean the other wide receivers will eat. So I think we've got 3 wide receivers from the Dallas Cowboys that are in these rankings. Next is a guy that had the most targets and the most catches yesterday against the Patriots, and that's Stefan Diggs. Stefan Diggs ranked number 6 in our rankings, playing the Bucks, and a guy that's jumped up the highest. And, half of this is kind of depending on Keenan Allen playing or not playing, and then, half of it is just like, it doesn't matter.
Keenan Allen's playing. Book it. Book it.
Book it.
Book it.
And that's Mike Williams playing the Giants, because we both think that both wide receivers, if Keenan Allen play, they will both eat against the Giants. And then next is a guy who had Calvin Johnson numbers. Wait for it. He had GOAT numbers, and that's Chris Godwin getting passes from the GOAT. No Tre'Davious White.
How many catches? How many catches
15.
do you have?
15. 1-5.
Woof. That's PPR gold. That is what you're looking for,
bling,
ladies and gentlemen.
Bling, 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 bling.
Kind of at the expense, though, of your main man, though, Benny. Mr.
Okay,
AB and that whole fiasco. He is no longer fantasy shot callers endorsed, ladies and gentlemen.
No, can't get behind that BS. And then next is a guy though who is honestly, he's top 5 dynasty wide receiver, and that's Deontay Johnson. I mean, plug in a better quarterback.
5? No, not top
dynasty.
5.
Yes, dynasty.
No.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yep.
No.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to do this real quick, because I could name 5 before him, easy money. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
No, I'd take Deontay Johnson over Jamar Chase.
I wouldn't. DK Metcalf.
Okay.
And we're talking dynasty. CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
And I guess this is a little harder than I imagine. Missing somebody here. Ooh, this is good. Okay, you're proving a little bit of a point to me right now. I like this. I think still dynasty. I would go Tyreek. Tyreek's young enough.
Yeah. I mean, you could.
Javonte's still young enough too.
Yeah, I mean, right? It's like quarterback play. If they get a good quarterback, I mean, yeah. So, top 5 to 7. Dynasty.
I'll give you top 10.
Okay. Anyways, so Deontay Johnson, playing the Vikings, he should eat. Ben Roethlisberger has had over 15 points the past 2 out of the past 3 games. He had a 20-point game, I think, this week or 2 weeks ago. But anyways,
it's risky business, people.
Yeah, it is very risky. And Tom Cruise ain't going to show up for autographs. So next is Mike Evans playing the Bills. Evans should eat. I think this is the week of Evans, that he actually grabs a touchdown and then throws it away, like Tom Brady's 600th touchdown pass. And then next is a guy we didn't really talk about, but we said his name, and so I think Bernie can say his name again.
Jamar Chase.
Out of the top 10 for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, but he's just been on a downwards trend, right? Like, I mean, he cooked the first 6-7 weeks of the season, and then I think it's just the defense that started focusing in on him so much. That and the rise of T. Higgins. I think that's something we gotta definitely talk about a little bit, because dude almost had 30 points this past game. And it wasn't
the process, baby. You gotta trust the process.
Yeah, real big process with T. Higgins.
A big
I
ass.
know it kind of has been though. I guess I will give you that because he he has been kind of rising up as we're starting to ask that question. Like, is he maybe the number one wide receiver instead of Jamar Chase? Like, starting to prove it a little bit.
I don't know. Maybe, probably. He's always been. I don't know.
I don't know.
Next is a guy that is the wide receiver one, no debate. He had a great game last week coming off injury, and that's DeAndre Hopkins playing the Rams. For some reason, the Rams can't stop people. They can just outshoot them sometimes. And so look for DeAndre Hopkins to have a pretty good game. Next is a guy we've dropped more and more, and I finally dropped him out of the top 10. And Bernie didn't even have to beg me this time. And that's DK Metcalf playing the Texans. Even playing the Texans, we still don't have either Seattle wide receiver in the top 10. Luckily, I mean, we're maybe even reaching for top 15.
Yeah, 100%. Next guy is someone who's kind of he's been consistent just because a little bit I don't know if consistent's the right word. It's kind of hard to define Scary Terry, right? Because he has these kind of
Yeah.
boom games and then he kind of disappears a little bit. And I think a lot of that has to do with Heineke, but I do think he has shown that his floor is there. And that's why you can start Scary Terry, and that's why we have him at number 14 against the Cowboys. This defense is definitely something that he can exploit. We'll see how it goes. I think this game, this could go to the Redskins here. This could really shake up the division, the NFC East.
You guys
Who'd
didn't
have
hear
thunk?
that? It's
Who?
that's not their name anymore. It is
Oh yeah, that's right.
Washington football
What?
team.
Yeah,
We're gonna
yeah.
be
Big
fantasy
Washington
shot callers
football
will
team.
be putting out a public service announcement apologizing for Zack Attack Bernie's actions on the Stackin' Studs. Next, DJ Moore should eat against the Falcons. I mean, Cam Newton, if he's not throwing it to DJ Moore, he should be. And what is he doing? But, I mean, even with Sam Darnold going down and being DJ Moore being his favorite, he's going to get more targets. And especially for full PPR, he's going to be absolutely gold. And I just realized that we have both Moores back to back.
I know, more and more and more.
More and more and more and more.
Elijah Moore, though, he's been cooking. And now with Corey Davis out for the rest of the season, Elijah Moore is the unquestioned wide receiver one now of the Jets. I mean, I don't know how much that necessarily means, but we're putting him at number 16 because he has been producing really no matter who the quarterback is. So I think you got to be able to start Elijah Moore as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 moving forward, really no matter the matchup moving forward. After that, I feel like we're kind of going maybe down a little bit, to be honest. I think like in a little bit of a tier, just because we're starting to hit some people who haven't not been consistent recently, like Tyler Lockett, Marquise Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy, and even like the next guy, Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
It's tough to say. Like in the end, I would start off all of those guys as like wide receiver 3s, right? I think that's kind of like the.
Put this in perspective. Elijah Moore is wide receiver 31 on the year.
He missed.
Amari Cooper is wide receiver 30 by 0.2 points.
Wow.
By 0.2 points. And Amari Cooper missed, I think, one or two less games than Elijah Moore did. And he has a better quarterback. Like, so much better quarterback. So that just shows, I mean, we may be seeing a little bit of a decline from the former, top 5, top 10 wide receiver in PPR. So I completely agree, and I love the take of just another tier of wide receivers. And where did you lead off? I was looking up the.
Oh yeah, no. So we're at like Amari Cooper is 21, which we might be. It's really matchup based there with Washington football team because Cooper has not been producing as of late. So, he's definitely somebody who is a risky play. I would actually probably put our next couple guys maybe ahead of him. It's Hunter Renfro playing against the Chiefs, Russell Gage against the Panthers, and Darnell Mooney against the Packers. All young wide receivers in the league who have been playing well these past few weeks. They're more, I'd say they have the more hot hands versus Cooper and Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
So I would definitely take a look at those guys as wide receiver threes. And then from there, we have some, Chase Claypool is another young guy, actually.
Yeah.
he's playing the Vikings. And as we were talking about earlier, you want to be starting players that are going to be playing against the Vikings. Cause I mean, if the Lions can beat them, your fantasy player can definitely get some points, right?
If Jared Goff can throw 3 touchdowns to one tight end, that's pretty good. But 2 other guys that are like, who are they? Then you should probably start your wide receivers against that team, and that's the Vikings. And then we did skip over Michael Gallup though. Michael Gallup has been eating as of late. Playing the Washington football team. The Washington football team was one of those teams that you wanted to start everyone on. They kind of are still, but not really. And then after Claypool is OBJ, like Bernie said earlier, 2 touchdowns in the past.
My
2
man,
weeks,
right there,
like that
right
wide
there,
receiver 2 on
right
that.
there, not there. I don't know where he is. He's somewhere around here. He's behind me.
He's somewhere. And then next is going to be Brandon Cooks, Marquez Callaway, and Cole Beasley. Callaway is only there because Deontay Harris is suspended for 3 games, and there was one deep shot that Taysom Hill missed Callaway on by like this much, and it was so close. And then Cole Beasley should eat out of that slot, against the Buccaneers' banged up secondary. I guess, and that brings us to a little bit of a tight end stack. Last, before we get to what you really came here for, the waiver wire. Ooh, the waiver wire.
Ooh.
Number 1, undisputed champ. I still will not draft him ever again. Travis
Oh,
Kelce.
stop. You'll draft him again.
Nope, never. Maybe if he's in the 4th round, I'll draft him.
That'll be the
Travis
day.
Kelce playing the Raiders. Next is a guy who was the fantasy MVP last week. Who is that?
It was George Kittle who dropped 40 points against me and was the reason that I lost in the league. So thank you, Mr. George Kittle, for reminding us all that you are a top 3 tight end in the league and should be treated as such. Next guy is another guy who, I mean, he's been Lamar's number 1 guy, but Lamar's been so inconsistent. You're going to start him no matter what, but you can't necessarily expect 20 points from him. It's Mark Andrews. And, that matchup against the Browns, though, again, it could be beneficial. He's at least Lamar's main guy, so that does help. Next guy, though, has been one of the most consistent tight ends when he plays. He has been cooking. And even though he's playing the Bills, Rob Gronkowski is a top 4 tight end again. It's back to the party Gronk days, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. That Brady Gronk connection is back. I think they have 91 touchdowns now all time. It's insane.
Unreal.
Yeah. So
running up the top 5 is going to be Dawson Knox against the Buccaneers. Like we've talked about, it's going to be a shootout between the Bucs and the Bills. Potential, probably not. But you could see it happening. Potential Super Bowl matchup. So that would be kind of funny if they match up now and then play in February. And then next is a guy that has been not topsy-turvy but pretty consistent, kind of but on the lower echelon, and Dalton Schultz playing the Washington football team. He's been consistently healthy, which has been great for fantasy owners, but he's been consistently 10 points, maybe a little under. And then the next guy, though, pretty disappointing. And that's, pretty much in part to quarterback play. And that is Mr. T to the J to the Hawkinson.
Yeah, he's playing the Broncos. You don't want to trust anybody that is, really on the Lions for the most part, unless it's DeAndre Swift and maybe if you're desperate, Jamal Williams. So
what's up, bald guy?
What up? So yeah, after that, it looks like we have the rookie himself, Mr. Kyle Pitts, playing the Panthers. Yeah. And Pitts has kind of had a topsy-turvy sort of year, right? At one point he was a top 3, top 4 tight end in our rankings, but now, as you can guys see, he's now number 8. Playing the Panthers, though, he is, number one, number two option for that
Mhm.
Falcons offense. So, again, his floor is, you're looking close to 10 points, hopefully. But again, what's that ceiling? Not necessarily that high.
Yeah, and I mean, with the next guy, and this guy, I mean, all these really tight ends have kind of just been up and down. Like last week, we were really high on like the top 10 tight ends, and then some like took a crap, some like didn't take a crap, but they still took a crap. It's Noah Fant of the Broncos, and they're playing the Lions, and I think it's kind of the same thing with T.J. Hawkinson, right? The offense and the quarterback, they're not they just can't throw the ball very well, and
Right.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's really it's not fortuitous to the fantasy value that they hold.
And that's why I would really look at these next two. Well, I would look at Zach Ertz and Tyler Conklin, who we have at 11 and 12, as some guys that, their quarterbacks have been fairly accurate with the ball, and they're in kind of pass heavy offenses. So their, chances of opportunity are higher. So I would definitely take a look at those two guys here, especially if you have to stream or, Zach Ertz is definitely a little bit more owned, but Tyler
Mhm.
Conklin, we're about to bring him up here shortly. He's
Yeah.
definitely someone to take a look at. And then to round it out, and yes, fantasy football guys, Zeke is killing me. He
Mhm.
killed me last year. He was cooking early this year, and I kind of knew it was too good to be true. He had like 4 or 5 straight games with 20 plus points. I was like, all right, here it comes. And then ever since he twisted his ankle, what was it, like 2, 3 games ago, it just hasn't
Yeah.
been the same. Like it would be best case if they sat him for a week or two. And then I think he'd be back to form. So and he's someone he's tough to trust. You kind of have
And
to start him though because he's Zeke.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. And speaking of injuries, Logan Thomas did not tear his ACL, but he will
no,
be out for this week. So look at Ricky Seals Jr. or that guy
or that guy.
Jesse Bates or someone like that. He has the same number as Travis Kelsey, so he's probably going to be good or something. 87 on the.
Quite the number.
And then next guy, Jared Cook playing the Giants, and then Evan Ingram has a couple surprising weeks, so had to get Mr. Butterfingers himself in here playing the Chargers.
I I think Evan Ingram will do really well somewhere else that's just not the Giants.
I mean, I think a lot of people would.
Yeah.
So that brings us, you know what time it is, and this is really why you all came here. Rumbling around that waiver wire. I'm gonna play that sound beat.
Hey, how you doing? You mind doing me a favor and getting up out of bed today? Huh? Yeah, that would be great.
Thanks. So starting off, quarterback has got to be for me Taysom Hill. He's owned in 34% of Yahoo leagues. Playing the Jets, I mean, forget about it. Uh, Another quarterback, Taylor Heineke, 38% in Yahoo leagues. So look to stream them too if you're looking for some quarterback help. You got quarterbacks over there, Bernie?
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm all about the quarterbacks with the rushing upside. So I'm, of course, taking a look at Taysom Hill, 34% owned, Jets. And yeah, you summed it up perfectly there. But next guy, Cam Newton. I know he's had like one good. Which handcuff are we handcuffing? Yeah, right. That is a great question. Um, and just who do you think? Who do you think actually? Before I continue, who do you think is like the kind of rare handcuff or someone who's like under 10% owned running back wise? Would you pick up right now, Benny? Because I have a
Oh,
couple in mind.
I actually have one, and he's probably my top five waiver wire pickups this week, and
Who's
that's
that?
Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny of the
Ah,
Seahawks.
okay, okay,
He had
okay.
10 carries to Adrian Peterson's 11. He also had
Yeah,
a reception for 27 yards. He was just missing a touchdown for like a high end RB3 value.
it's true.
So going forward, you could see he just looked better than Alex Collins.
I know Alex Collins has not been the guy, the guy there really at all. So yeah, no, I'm 100% with you with that. I think that's a great suggestion, um, and probably under 10% owned, probably one of the best ones. I was also taking a look at like DJ Dallas as somebody
Yeah.
you could also get in that backfield as well. Um, And besides that, I would say I'm not sure about Ronald Jones, how he's doing at this point, if he's health wise going to be able to continue. But if you're a Leonard Fournette owner, you should definitely pick him up.
I mean, also like Jared Patterson of the Washington football team with J.D. McKissick out. And then, with Kenyon Drake going down, you got to look at Jalen Richard or Peyton Barber because they've
Right.
both had like
Peyton Barber.
1 week that they've like boomed.
Yep.
And we've seen Josh Jacobs kind of carry questionable marks into weeks, weeks here and there. So, and I mean, for running back, but another one, percent, but if you're not in such a competitive league, he should be available, and that's Ramondre Stevenson. He's on a bye this week, so you won't be able to play him, but 61% owned in Yahoo leagues. Look to cuff him up for cuffing season because Damian Harris looks like a hamstring injury, and hamstrings usually take a little more than a week to heal.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess I have two running backs that are 1% owned that I just want to briefly mention and go back to. JaMychal Hasty, 49ers backfield. You never know what'll happen there. And then Justin Jackson, of course. He looks to be that pure handcuff to Austin Eckler, or at least he will get the PPR action. He'll be the pass catching back in that backfield. But for guys who are more owned, I'm really actually just looking at the Titans backfield. I'm looking at Dontrell Hilliard and Deonta Foreman. They're both, Hilliard's 42% owned, Foreman's 41% owned. I'm looking at that matchup with the Jags. I'm looking at, that's really how the Titans like to facilitate their offenses through the running backs. They like to establish the run so they can get the play action going and then get the receivers involved. So look at those two guys to really play a pretty prominent role. I'm very curious to see how McNichols will play into it as well, because he should be back from concussion. So it is
that whole
going to be a
backfield
tough,
is just so frustrating.
right? It's gonna work itself out one way or another, and I think you're just gonna have to take a big risk. Yes.
Fight.
So, yeah, just go with one of them and hope and pray.
But really, this is the week of the wide receiver. Rashad Bateman, I have a bold prediction that he will get his first touchdown this week. He is owned in 50% of Yahoo leagues. Look to grab him, even though he had 0 points on one target last week.
Killed me, bro. Yeah,
me too.
Bateman.
Me too.
Oh.
Next is a guy that I will say 3 times because I want to Beetlejuice him into existence because I need it. Marquez Callaway. 27% owned in Yahoo leagues. And I've been beating myself up a bit because I'm in a lot of leagues, and usually when I'm playing fantasy football, I'll be a tiny bit of a homer, and sometimes it works out for me. Mostly I'll be burned, but I was not a homer with Elijah Moore. I drafted him in most of my leagues and then dropped him, and I should have kept him. So I'm going to be a homer in this one. And with Corey Davis being out, pick up Jamison Crowder, 21% owned in Yahoo leagues. Look to stream him this week if you're in need of wide receiver help. And, looking at KJ Osborne, too, I'm not sure on his percentage owned. But
right around 18%.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And
so look at him with Adam Thielen out.
I think the number one receiver, though, you got to target. I'm surprised you didn't mention him.
Oh, Russell Gage, yes.
There he is. Russell Gage, 35% owned. He's been cooking. Benny and I, we were on him preseason. It's just he didn't show up and do anything the first 8 weeks of the season. So then, of course, weeks 9 and 10, it's like, oh, is this a mirage? It's not like he's not really that good of a player, but it doesn't really appear to matter at all. So in this case, give me Russell Gage as a solid wide receiver 3 or flex option moving forward. I think I'd really prioritize him over any running back or quarterback that we have here. Same thing. I think he's probably my number one waiver while you're at.
I agree. Even going against the Carolina Panthers defense, they're a little banged up. So don't let that red mark of Carolina and Yahoo leagues discourage you from starting him this week.
And I know I was just saying not to take any near giant, but I do have Sterling Shepard here listed, 27% owned. I would say if he gets listed out, get him on your IR potentially as someone you could play like as a flex or something. You just got to see how it'll shake out. But if he plays, he's going to get the target volume. And then I have Crowder and Marquise Valdez-Scantling as well.
Okay.
And Scantling's available in 22, or he's owned in 22% of leagues. So definitely, he looks to be the number 2 option there for Mr. Rogers.
And then tight end, we talked about him a little bit already. Tyler Conklin, 30% owned in Yahoo leagues. Look to stream him. If you've been watching, I've always said don't let that fool you with Tyler Conklin. He's not going to do that great, but with the target share that he's gonna get with Adam Thielen being out, this is the time that you want to stream him. And then the next one, Jared Cook. He's been on and off all year. 45% owned in Yahoo leagues. Look to stream him, and a little Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, for me, Tyler Conklin's my number 1 tight end. After that, I'm looking at Austin Hooper. He's actually been, someone who's been getting involved here in the offense more recently. And then if Darren Waller's out, I guess I'll go with Foster Moreau again one more time. He gave me 1 catch for 34 yards last week and was not helpful. So if Waller, you're out, Foster Moreau, please do better.
And then we get into a little bit of if you have the Patriots defense or Nick Folk, what are you going to do? Well, these streamers, first off, Dustin Hopkins, my streamer kicker of the week for the Los Angeles Chargers, 14% owned in Yahoo leagues. And the defense for me, going against the Jets, and that's the New Orleans Saints, even without Marshawn Lattimore, they should be able to get a pick 6 or whatever against the Jets. But are we dropping people for Patriots defense?
For the Patriots defense, I mean, I would try to keep them for however way you can. In most of my leagues, if I think I'm making the playoffs, I already have 2 defenses on my team. Just like looking in the matchups, trying to strategically plan ahead. So yeah, I mean, I would prioritize that, especially if you don't think you're going to be playing a player the rest of the season. There's no reason to hold on to him anymore. Handcuffs keep, but if you have a backup tight end that you were holding on to for whatever reason, and your tight end no longer has a bye week or anything like that, just drop him. Drop. Especially, I was also backup quarterbacks. That's also something. Especially if you don't like any of the matchups upcoming necessarily, just drop them. Really, just keep what you need. You have to at this point, you have to be willing to be flexible with your roster, but at the same time, you're going to want to keep your handcuffs and keep your priority people.
Very, very, very true. So, I mean, Patriots D.
Yeah. So I guess, let's think of a couple good players, right? That we need to who would you pick up or who would you drop, right?
So let's see. Let's keep it in the family. Patriots D or Jacoby Myers?
Oh! I mean, they threw the ball 3 times. Give me Patriots D. I don't think I'd start Jacoby Myers.
Patriots D or Tyler Boyd?
Patriots D.
Let's see. Let's sprinkle in a running back here.
Give me a good running back. These are some good ones.
Darrell Williams or Patriots D?
Patriots D.
Let's see. That's easy.
How about Zach Moss?
I literally was going to say that. That's easy. Patriots D.
Nyheim Hines, Patriots D.
Yeah, I'd stick with. Let's see.
How about Chase Edmonds?
Oh, that is tough.
That is tough.
I'd probably go Patriots D.
I think I'd go Chase Edmonds.
Okay.
I think I would, just in case something happens and you're desperate for a run. If James Conner goes down,
To the people in the chat, put in questions. This person or Patriots D.
Yeah, we got a couple more minutes.
Yeah, come on. We're just we're just getting it in here.
Yeah.
This little segment we did Justin Tucker earlier. We were gonna do the Rams, and then we're like, well, the Rams haven't been that great. They just haven't.
Yeah.
They're great on paper. But yeah, throw it in the chat. We'll answer all that. So let's see, Nick Folk or Mark Ingram.
I know. I was literally just wondering about that same one. I think, like, if I'm a Kamara owner, I would keep Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
If not, though, I would probably drop him because you probably unless like your roster warranted it. How about? And I don't even know if we mentioned him in our rankings. Dallas Goedert. Oh yeah, he's a buy. That's why.
Oh yeah, he has a buy.
Yeah.
But I mean I don't
Backup
think
tight end?
you can't drop him. You can't drop him after last week.
I don't know. It could have been a mirage.
It could have been.
It matters. Like, I mean, if I had, I mean, I guess you could technically flex him, right? But like, if I had Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Waller, or Gronk, like I wouldn't be playing Goddard.
The fancy French cheese in Goddard.
Goddard.
I'm in the kitchen just down. Goddard. And let's see. What about the likes of, you're streaming quarterbacks, right? And you want to just pick the right matchups. And would you drop, let's see, would you drop Nick Folk to add a Taysom Hill?
Yeah, if you're streaming quarterbacks, then yeah. Quarterback's one of the most important positions. So yeah, I would 100%.
Let's see.
Backup
quarterback. Yeah.
I think same thing. If you need a quarterback, I think you have to. But like Nick Folk, what is he? You said number 72?
Oh, 72. He's 72 in full PPR.
That's insane.
Like out of everyone.
That's insane.
And he has almost 30 more points than any other kicker in the league.
That's week winning stuff. It really is.
I mean, that's league winning. That's championship. and we've talked about this a little bit, but this is the year of Luck. Andrew Luck is back, and he's just putting his name into the aura, and it all leads with Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, that kind of stuff does happen, but like Debo after last year. Anyways, I'm not going to get into all that. This is Stacking the Studs. Ben Gunna, Benny Buckets in the house. Zack Attack Bernie to the left of me, maybe to the right of me on your screen. Every Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for about an hour. You know what it is. Fantasy is life. You know it's a vibe. Fantasy_shot callers on Instagram. _fantasy shot callers on TikTok. Bing bong. Fuck your life. Peace out.